Good morning, everyone. This is a special privilege for me to be here at Garma, where the two waters become one, to celebrate your culture, everything from Bungal and Didge to Manukay. I acknowledge the Gumarj and the traditional owners and pay my respects to elders, both past and present. I acknowledge all the young people here, the leaders and elders of the future. I salute a giant of my party, a tireless champion of reconciliation who is with us here today, Bob Hawke. I recognise the new Garma Knowledge Centre, home for the cultural treasures which we're celebrating. Congratulations to everyone who's made it possible, and I pay particular tribute to your friend and mine, Jenny Macklin. In modern Australia, we have gained and grown from embracing Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander history and culture in our art, our music, our films, our literature. A 40,000-year-old culture daily enriching every part of our short history together. But we can do better, and we can do more. This centre and this festival show us that we can achieve balance and harmony. When I was last here in February, I had the honour of sitting with Galarrwuy and other elders. It was an uncertain time. The refinery shutting down, a lot of good people under pressure and change. But I was inspired by the determination and the high horizons of the leaders I met. I witnessed in your hearts the same passion that took the bark petitions and the injustice that they sought to overturn from Yirrkala to Canberra 51 years ago. The passion captured in the inspirational words and music of the great friend of this community and our country, sadly lost last year. So today I am honoured to return to your country with my family. My wife Chloe and I wanted our children to see your beautiful, unique homelands and your resilient, proud people. Strong, generous people working to build better lives for your families. I'm not a stranger to this place, but today I seek to learn more and to do more. Because closing the gap through the recognition and empowerment of our first Australians is the test of this generation. I approach this task with humility, knowing that it represents the most profound, enduring challenge of our 2 centuries together. Ever since Prime Minister Gough Whitlam said 42 years ago that all of us are diminished while Aboriginal people are denied their rightful place in our nation, national leaders of all persuasions have carried Gough's statement in their minds as a profound truth. This truth is unrelenting and will remain unassuaged in the conscience of this nation for as long as we do not find and restore this rightful place. I come to Garma not to preach or proclaim, to lecture or dictate. My colleague Warren Snowden tells me, and I can see for myself, that the Yolngu know exactly who they are and where they are going. I know you're anchoring secure, independent economic futures for your people through your land, through business and industry, and with the new skills, new jobs and new opportunities of the Rio Tinto Mining School. Friends, I am here to learn. But friends, I know already that we've been a country and a continent divided in two. The powerful and the powerless. The free and the oppressed. Your people have endured oppression in every form. Oppressed by settlers, squatters and frontier violence. Oppressed by segregation, discrimination and exclusion. Oppressed by a failure to respect cultures, tradition and languages. Oppressed by racism, prejudice and paternalism, both malign and benign. Oppressed by short lives and long misery, more diseases and fewer jobs. At Redfern in 1992, Paul Keating was the first Australian Prime Minister to fully acknowledge these injustices. His words woke the nation to the haunting stain on our soul. 22 years and 4,000 kilometres from Redfern, much good work has been done. Australia has said sorry for the theft of your children. And we are on the path to matching words with deeds, to empowering Aboriginal people and closing the gap. Yet too many remain trapped in the morass of unfairness and entrenched disadvantage. We have an opportunity now and a responsibility always to gather up the mantle of Redfern and create an accord between Indigenous and non-Indigenous Australia. An agreement based on shared goals and mutual respect, on our common rights and responsibilities. Because succeeding in this national task means working together as empowered communities and equals. For me, Indigenous affairs has never been just a victim study. I believe that you, the people who've cared for Australia's national estate for 400 centuries, can thrive and succeed in 21st century Australia. That is why you should be in control, not passive recipients of bureaucratic guesswork. I've heard many times that Aboriginal people are the most over-consulted people in Australia, but far too often the first policy consultation with Aboriginal people is the last time that the people most affected are involved. This leads to alienation. This leads to frustration and angst that legitimately comes from feeling that your voice has not been heard, to further disempowerment or focusing negative energy on the wrong issues. In education, in health, in childcare, in employment, in legal aid, in communal safety, in land use for economic development, Aboriginal people must be valued and respected and engaged at every level. Whenever and wherever Australians, Indigenous or non-Indigenous, are exercising their normal responsibilities to themselves and their families, there is no justification for intervening in their right to manage their own lives. The great majority of Australians who receive welfare income are responsible, and we must not interfere with the dignity of this majority of Australians. There are two non-negotiables for Labor in any current debates about the future of government support. Measures must not discriminate between Indigenous and non-Indigenous Australians. Measures must not interfere with the dignity of the majority of Australians who are exercising responsibilities and who most certainly do not deserve any intervention in their domestic and private matters. And it is time we should give thought, new thought, to formal mechanisms which guarantee this, to ensure broad-based representative input and meaningful engagement with the Parliament, not just self-appointed committees or one-man bands. My goal is to build partnerships of mutual respect, recognition and shared responsibility. Partnerships where the first instinct of government is to listen and learn, not to lecture. Partnership that recognise that wisdom is not imported from Canberra. It grows here in this earth, what is known as Mother Earth. Partnerships that empower Aboriginal people to own their futures, their destinies. Partnerships that see Aboriginal people as part of the answer, not a problem to be solved. It means moving away from the deficit model towards recognising Indigenous excellence, nurturing achievement and valuing the strength of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. It means engaging with Aboriginal people as cultural beings, capable of navigating the modern world, of adding value to, contributing, enhancing the Australian society that we all love and share. This was the cooperative, community-driven spirit at the heart of closing the gap targets. This is the cause that Labor recommits to today. We will work with you. We will seek your guidance, not out of insincerity or false morality, because we respect your knowledge. The alternative, a return to top-down, one-size-fits-all bureaucratic dictation, is no alternative at all. We cannot fall back into the trap of we know best. You know, we all know. The problems that arise when decisions affecting your community, your family, your futures are made 4,000 kilometres away without your participation. You should be the ones making informed decisions at the local and regional level. You should have the control and choice to build a better life. You should be able to leverage your resources and your land to develop and create opportunities. And decisions about the future must draw on the free, prior and informed consent of people and communities, upholding the Declaration on Indigenous Peoples' Rights. We will not overcome Indigenous disadvantage by undermining Indigenous diversity or Indigenous rights. At the beginning of the 21st century, Australia cannot afford a 19th century view of Indigenous affairs. We cannot go back down this road, especially when at last we begin to make real progress. Last year we met the first Closing the Gap target. Today, every precious, unique, amazing child living in a remote community has access to early childhood education. That first step leads to the next, boosting reading, writing and numeracy, guaranteeing that more Indigenous students will complete school, leading to more Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people with university degrees and training qualifications, leading to good and rewarding jobs. This is the life-changing, potential-fulfilling power of education. Education begins when we enter the world at home, and we must weave it right through school, apprenticeships and university. We must invest in skills and knowledge and the potential of this generation. And as with anything else, success depends upon community leadership, on parents, older siblings, uncles and aunties, elders and role models. That is why, when in government, Labor did support frontline services, including the community and family centres. We believe also that local decision-making requires real dollars and empowered communities. Government has to replace control with collaboration. Labor believes in funding innovation in the delivery of frontline services, not defunding them. In providing stability and certainty for communities pursuing long-term options. What we say here should always be what we do in Canberra, and what we do in Canberra should be what we've said we would do here. And we should always be asking the fundamental question, is government working for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people? Visiting Garma and seeing all the remarkable young faces here, it is hard and bewildering to believe that an Aboriginal boy leaving school is more likely to go to jail than university. For too many Aboriginal people, a first offence means a prison sentence. Prison so often leads to unemployment, unemployment to alcohol abuse to family violence and to reoffending. And reoffending leads to more incarceration. It is a vicious, hope-killing cycle, and we must smash this. We need a new justice target developed in consultation with Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people and legal aid groups. We must and we can reduce the growing numbers of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders, especially young men, who are arrested, tried and jailed. The increasing number of Aboriginal men in custody is a national disgrace. Here in the land of the fair go and the second chance, the colour of your skin should never determine the sentence you receive. We need to support our frontline legal aid services, providing qualified advice and proper representation. We must stop the rivers of grog through the community-driven alcohol management plans and local leadership. We must speak out loudly against family violence, uniting alongside communities to end cowardly attacks on women and children. We must support family violence centres and counselling services. This is about building respect and instilling hope. Respect for the very essence of a safe and happy family. Respect for kinship. Respect for community. And self-respect. And the hope that the goals can be achieved. Our targets can still be met. That the gap can be closed in our lifetime. Indeed, Labor believes in according Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples a place of honour in Australia's Constitution. Redressing historical injustice and facing uncomfortable historical truth demands every ounce of our national will. I know that Australian history didn't begin at Botany Bay or Eureka or Anzac Cove. Our Australian story begins with you and your ancestors, the oldest collective race of people in the world. And the sooner our Constitution honours the people who have shared an unbroken connection with this ancient continent, the better. But constitutional recognition must involve more than token gestures. We need substantive change. Symbolic change isn't good enough. Tinkering with the preamble will not suffice. Many Indigenous people have made it clear to me that they believe banning racism in our Constitution is vital. The expert panel on constitutional recognition proposed a new Section 116, capital A, for this very purpose. Now, we are some way from finalising any referendum proposal. But imagine striking out old laws tainted with imperialism and prejudice and replacing them with a safeguard against racial discrimination. What a marvellous, uplifting moment for all Australians, not just our Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander brothers and sisters. A reminder that apart from you, the very first Australians, all of us Balanda are migrants. A tribute to both the world's oldest living culture and our modern multicultural society. A reflection on the best of our Australian soul. I believe recognition will succeed, but I am conscious of the difficulties ahead of us. If we rush, we might move too fast to build community support. If we wait too long, division, denial, cynicism may fracture this moment of national unity. The only way to overcome these risks is to unite behind Recognise, a grassroots community campaign led by Aboriginal people. Ultimately, though, recognition will only succeed if both major parties agree. The Parliamentary Committee on Constitutional Recognition, led by the talented Ken Wyatt and our outstanding Senator for the Northern Territory, Nova Peris, is taking a bipartisan approach. Liberal and Labor must, I repeat, must reach a consensus before the next election so that whether or not afterwards, whether or not Tony Abbott or I are Prime Minister, all Australians have certainty. Be assured, Labor, the party of land rights, of native title, of Redfern, of the apology, of closing the gap, will devote its energy to making recognition happen. I think it is fair to say that the Prime Minister may have to deal with more scepticism and some less understanding from parts of his Conservative movement. So today, I offer to help him where I can, and Labor will lead where we must. Recognition should be a political priority of the nation, but it should be beyond politics. It is a historical wrong that must be made right. Right now, there are some Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who ask, What good is recognition if I cannot find a job? What good is a statement of equality when I battle inequality every day in education and health? What is the point of historical justice if I'm denied basic natural justice? What is the value of being included in the Constitution if I'm still excluded from society? These questions are more than fair. But Australia does not have to choose between practical and symbolic reconciliation. They are tied together just as our destinies are tied together. We share a common goal and we must share a common dream. Working together, sharing power to achieve success. I'll be back here in East Arnhem. My Shadow Minister Shane Newman, my caucus colleagues and I will be meeting with Indigenous people right around Australia, in remote communities, in the suburbs of our city and in regional towns. Your ideas, your goals, your hopes, your dreams are always close to Labor's heart. Your cause will always be important to Labor. It will always be our cause. We will listen, we will work, we will trust you with the power to build better lives for your families, and we will not rest till the job is done, until the gap is closed, until the promise of Australia is fulfilled for all, until opportunity belongs to us all, until the day when, as Galarrwuy says, our two waters are one. Thank you.